Welcome back to Modern Warrior Project. Today we're covering the 5 levels of home fortification that could save your life during collapse. Imagine hearing footsteps on your back porch when you have no way out. This is why every reinforcement level matters. Level 1 starts with basic entry point reinforcement like steel core doors and heavy-duty deadbolts. But the higher levels involve psychological warfare and community defense networks, with trusted neighbors handling lookout and resource management roles that most preppers never consider. I'm walking you through the most critical levels and explaining why skipping even one could leave you completely vulnerable when desperate people come calling. But before we get into fortification tactics, we need to talk about something most preppers get completely wrong about the threats they're preparing for. The 2 faces of desperation. Most preppers think all looters are the same, but there are actually 2 completely different types coming for your stuff, and the strategies that work against one type can actually make you more vulnerable to the other. Let's start with the desperate individual. Picture this: it's been 3 weeks since the grid went down. Your neighbor Tom never prepped a day in his life. His kids are crying because they're hungry, his wife needs her medication, and Tom isn't evil, he's just desperate. These folks are driven by 2 core behaviors. They act impulsively based on immediate needs, and they avoid anything that looks hard. Tom wants to get in, grab what he needs, and get out fast. He's not looking for a fight. A steel door stops him cold. Security bars on windows send him walking. Even a simple alarm system makes him move on to the next house because there's always another target down the street. Now let's talk about organized marauders. These groups operate completely different. They scout your property for days or weeks before making a move. They watch your routines, count how many people live in your house, and look for weapons, security systems, and escape routes. These aren't desperate individuals making impulsive decisions. These are coordinated teams with a plan. Marauders aren't just looking to grab supplies and run. They want to dominate and control resources long term. They assess risk versus reward like a military operation. That security sign in your yard that scares off Tom? It tells the marauders you have something worth protecting. Those security cameras that make desperate people walk away? Organized groups see them as intel gathering tools to study your guard dog patterns or figure out shift changes in your security routine. Here's where it gets tricky. The warning signs that work great against desperate individuals can actually attract organized groups. Posting "looters will be shot" signs might make Tom think twice, but it tells marauders you're armed and prepared, which means you probably have valuable supplies. Security lights may silhouette defenders and reveal positions to groups watching from a distance. Desperate people avoid hard targets because they want easy wins. Show them any resistance and they'll move on. But organized groups actually probe for weaknesses. They expect some resistance. They're looking for the gap in your defenses, checking if your back door is weaker than your front door, searching for blind spots in your security coverage. Understanding their mindset lets you predict their behavior. Desperate people follow patterns of least resistance. They hit during daylight when they can see, make noise because they're stressed and rushing, and leave evidence because they're not thinking long term. Organized groups operate at night, stay quiet, clean up after themselves, and might even make it look like you just left town voluntarily. But how do you build defenses that repel both types without betraying your true strength? That starts with understanding what most people get completely wrong about their first line of defense. Level 1, hardening your castle gates. Your front door is lying to you right now. It looks secure, but I can show you how most doors can be kicked in with one good hit. Here's the problem most people don't understand. Standard residential doors and windows are designed for privacy, not security. They're built to keep honest people honest and to give you some separation from the outside world. But when attackers come calling, these standard entry points fail fast. Let's go ahead and talk about why expensive doors still fail. You can spend $2,000 on a beautiful steel door with multiple locks, but if the frame isn't properly reinforced, one solid kick near the deadbolt will split that frame like a toothpick. The door stays perfect while the frame explodes around it. Most people waste money on the wrong upgrades because they focus on the door instead of the whole system. Here's what actually works for door security. You need a steel core door with a heavy-duty deadbolt that extends at least 1 inch into the frame. But that's just the starting point. The real security comes from frame reinforcement. Those little half-inch screws that come with most deadbolts only grab the thin door jamb. You need 3-inch screws that bite deep into the wall studs behind the jamb, not just the jamb itself. I'm talking about screws that go through the jamb, through the gap, and anchor into solid wood. This distributes the force across the entire wall structure instead of just that thin piece of trim. A couple notes here about strike plates. The standard strike plate that comes with most deadbolts is maybe 2 inches long. You want a strike plate that's at least 6 inches long with multiple screw holes for proper force distribution. This spreads the impact force across a much larger area. When someone tries to kick your door, they're fighting the entire wall instead of just one small point. Now let's talk about windows because they're often the weakest link. Ground level windows are basically open invitations if you don't secure them properly. Security bars work, but they can trap you inside during a fire. Polycarbonate panels look like regular glass but withstand significant force without the prison appearance. You mount them on the inside of the window frame. They're nearly invisible from outside, but they'll stop everything short of power tools. Security window film is another option that holds glass together even when it breaks. The film keeps all those sharp pieces in place instead of scattering across your floor. An attacker might crack the glass, but they still can't get through because the film holds everything together like a spider web. Heavy furniture and sandbags stacked behind doors buy you critical time by creating multiple obstacles that require sustained effort to remove. Here's what most people miss: attackers will find and exploit the weakest spot. You can have the most secure front door in the neighborhood, but if your back door still has the builder-grade deadbolt, that's where they'll hit. Every entry point needs attention. Basement windows, sliding glass doors, garage doors, even pet doors need security upgrades. At the end of the day, proper entry point reinforcement forces attackers to make noise and spend time. Most desperate looters won't risk it. They want quick and quiet access. When your doors and windows require sustained effort to breach, those opportunistic criminals move on to easier targets. In part 2, we'll make sure no one even knows you're prepared. The Invisible Fortress, Operational Security. Make sure and join us as we continue this short series.